Now, it's been a while since I made a video. Doesn't really matter. I gotta say that I enjoy iFixit stuff. I own several of their toolkits. I appreciate what they're doing. And heck, if I were, I guess, a little more motivated, I probably would have attempted to start something like this back when I was younger. We'll just say that. Because I am a tinkerer. I like tearing stuff down. I like buying broken things and repairing them. Years ago, that was a more practical thing to do because things were cheaper. So it just made sense. Now things are a little more expensive, so I haven't really purchased as many broken things in hopes of repairing them to then use them as fully functional devices. But one thing that sparked my interest was their tear down and repairability score of the new Surface devices. My first experience with a Surface device, I want to say, was the Surface Pro 4. I could go back through my eBay and see exactly which one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was a Surface Pro 4. And at that particular time, it was back in 2020, so the world's locked down. I'm buying laptops and stuff to try to figure out, hey, what do I want to use while I'm at home? So in addition to that Surface Pro 4, I also purchased a Dell Latitude something, another tablet, and hopefully I will have it on the screen right now. But with their new releases, first thing I'll say is I have purchased a Surface laptop. So that'll be here hopefully sometime at the end of the week. I probably won't do any type of real review on it because there's so many of them out already. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm only using it as hopefully a MacBook Air replacement. So maybe I will do some type of video. We'll see. But what I noticed in their teardown of the Surface laptop was something that I feel is missing with the Surface Pro 11. So we're going to watch the teardown. I'm going to chop some stuff up and cuts and whatever. But as you can see along my tabs on the top, I already have 2 other videos that we're going to watch in tandem with this. Hopefully I can get this entire thing down to less than 12 minutes. So let's begin.
Microsoft's latest line of Surface devices, the 11th Gen Surface Pro and Surface Laptop 7 with Copilot Plus. So on with the teardown, starting with the Surface Laptop. I know Microsoft has made strides in repairability since we last looked at one of these, so I'm excited to see what we'll find inside. Here's an example. We no longer need to destroy the device to get in, mainly thanks to the 4 screws hidden underneath these rubber feet. And there's no fussing with clips. The bottom plate is held in place simply by magnets and lifts away easily.
All right, so right there, that's one thing I want you to remember. Simple removal of the bottom panel using screws and magnets. I'm okay with clips. A lot of devices use some type of clip to make sure it's actually secure, like the ThinkPad. Notably a super rugged device, one that I have no gripes when it comes to trying to swap out a battery or an SSD. And for those of them that still allow us to swap out RAM modules, and having clips just makes it a little more secure. So no issues with it. I do know that the MacBook and I guess the older Surface laptops probably had some clips that aren't in the most advantageous places. But right now, screws and magnets are definitely a good way to go. So keep that in mind.
Gives me a bit of the Framework 13. The first look at the insides is very promising. We have symbols denoting the components and screw types. There's the battery clearly marked, and 3IP means we need a 3IP Torx Plus driver. Microsoft calls these Wayfinder markings a pretty cool moniker. I'm curious to see what the little wrench symbol and QR code mean. Turns out it leads to Microsoft's website where repairability guides were made available from day one. That's pretty impressive, especially when other manufacturers, Apple, don't even announce when they intend to release manuals for a device. This is a level of repair friendliness that we've only ever seen in repair-minded companies like Framework and Fairphone, so it's really pleasant to see Microsoft adopt these same practices.
So I'm not going to go and do the research. And yes, I will say kudos to Microsoft for giving a little QR code as well as the little label to tell you what type of tools you need. Yes, that is a huge step up. But from my experience, it's been extremely simple to repair Lenovo devices, or I guess I'll just say ThinkPad devices, without the need for Lenovo to dictate exactly what needs to do this and what that. I feel like from the beginning they knew that, hey, people are going to buy these devices, keep them for a while, and have to do some work on them themselves. So let's design it in a way that allows them to do that. Whereas here we are with the Surface laptop, 7, and we're finally getting things like that. So I applaud Microsoft and I applaud iFixit for recognizing Microsoft's progress. But at the same time, just like how he, called out Apple right there, it's the world of computing isn't new. So why is it taking you so long to do something like this? And while it is progress in the right direction, I think sometimes I'm just scorned because it's just like, well, you should have done this years ago. And like I said, I did buy the Surface Laptop 7 that will be here later. I almost just was like, you know what, I'm done with Surface devices at all because of how they were operating in the past. And I don't really see much value in their devices, so why even buy them? But, I think I'm turning a new leaf. But, let's continue. And there's one more thing I want to point out with the laptop, and I think he's about to talk about it next.
Right away, we can see that the battery symbol is telling us that there are 8 Torx screws to undo here. And with that, the only consumable component in this device is removed. This might not sound like a big deal, but here's how many components we had to remove to get to the Surface Laptop 3 battery. The lithium polymer battery in our 13.8-inch model is rated for 54.12 watt-hours.
So yes, you did see how much work was required to get out the laptop on that older Surface laptop device. And if I were doing this professionally, I probably would be in iFixit's position as well of, yeah, you guys were terrible at it in the past and you've gotten better. Thanks. Should you have designed it this particular way 4 or 5 years ago? Yeah, but you chose not to for some reason, so here we are.
Promises to deliver longer runtime on the new and efficient Snapdragon X processor. The M2 storage is also easily accessible and seemingly upgradable.
Now, that's another issue that I have right there. That we can see it's one of the little short guys. And while it is theoretically easily upgradable, and I'd like to point out the fact that something that is upgradable isn't necessarily easily repairable. They are two separate things. So you are not repairing the device when you're upgrading that memory module right there, or that storage module. But every time I'm gonna say that's a 2230 NVMe SSD. Why is that in there instead of a 2280? 2280s are really easily accessible. I can go to Best Buy right now. I probably go to Walmart, Target. No, I don't know about Target, but definitely Best Buy. And I'm pretty sure Walmart right now and go buy a 2280. And that's just the dimension of the drive. I have to Google that to see where I can buy that. I'm sure I can probably buy it from Microsoft. I can bet money that QR code will take us to Microsoft's website. I have no idea how much it costs. But I do know if you're buying a laptop from Microsoft and you want to upgrade the storage, I believe it's a $200 upcharge to go from 256 to 512. So I'm not liking the idea of, and it's not just Microsoft. There's some other laptop manufacturers in addition to other ones that are making machines with these Snapdragon chips in them that put these smaller guys. I think I've seen 2230, and I want to say I feel like I've seen some 2242 might be the other dimension. Yeah. Please, I apologize if my dimensions are wrong, but all of that just to say 2280 exists, 2280 is common, and 2280 is what you can go and buy at the store yourself.
There were lots of repairability wins in that laptop, and
So up next, we're going to have the Surface Pro 11. Spoiler alert, iFixit gives both of these devices 8 out of 10 repairability skills. And I'm just like, I don't, for the laptop, I can see an 8 out of 10. Yeah, it's fine. But for this Surface Pro that we're about to see, I don't see how this can also get an 8 out of 10, mainly because of how you have to go into the device. So let's start watching.
to see if those wins are also reflected in the Surface Pro. Just like recent Surface Pro models, the M.2 storage is accessible without disassembly.
So again, I complained a whole ordeal about not putting a standard 2280 NVMe SSD in the Surface. And when I first started seeing that for these new Snapdragon devices, I got really bothered because when I had my Surface Pro 4, this is what I saw when I finally got into it, which was a huge hassle to get into.
The SSD was next to come out.
And there it is. That's just a standard 2280 NVMe SSD. So even though it seems that some of the repairability for these devices has gotten better, I view putting a different size NVMe SSD inside this particular device as a downgrade. And the last thing we'll say on the NVMe drive is I have a Dell laptop somewhere in here, and Dell decided to put a 2230 drive in the machine, but they put it on a little holder that essentially spanned the length of a 2280. So if I wanted to, the motherboard allowed me to install a larger drive. And if Microsoft wants to put these smaller drives in, fine, but make it so that the motherboard accepts a larger physical drive. So let's see how he has to actually get into the machine.
The M.2 also cuts power to the board. That's as easy as it's gonna get, but now we have to deal with that screen. The adhesive isn't too bad to cut away, but it's not going to be a fun repair for the DIY enthusiast who just wants to replace a battery. Once inside, I need to remove one of those pesky shields to disconnect the screen's ribbon cable.
Alright, so I'm going to stop right there. So he just flat out said it's not going to be easy for those DIY people who want to just repair something or swap out the battery. And as I said already, he gives this device also an 8 out of 10. So are we scoring it on a curve because it's a tablet? So it's like, okay, the laptop you could open because you had to just remove some screws and apply some magnets or separate some magnets. Here, it looks like he had, a heat plate? Most people don't have heat plates. Jerry rigs everything. He just took this device apart and he used a heat gun. I had to use a heat gun to open the Surface Pro 4. So in terms of that level of repairability, nothing's changed in 4 generations now. So I don't see how this thing gets an 8 out of 10. Now, the one thing I wanted you to remember, because I talked about it at the beginning of the video, how did he get into the Surface laptop? Screws and magnets, okay? Now, we're not going to watch the video. We're just going to come over here and look at this video, or a still of this video. So as I mentioned, I had a Dell Latitude something. I think it was a 5800 something, I don't know, tablet. And when I got it, I knew there was an issue with the screen. And I said, okay, how am I going to get this thing open? So we're not going to watch the whole video, but just trust me, just like the initial opening of a laptop, there were some screws that he removed. And if you can look right here where my cursor is, can I shake it? There it is. That's a magnet. And then there's another magnet over here. Can I shake it again? There it is. And I want to say there's some that we can't see, like down here at the bottom. I believe that there are. And if there aren't, the thing was held in place with screws. So when it comes to the Surface Pro tablet, I don't understand why they also aren't using screws and magnets. The moment you have to pull out a heat gun or a heat plate to get inside to remove a battery, there's no way you can get an 8 out of 10. So I don't think I said it at the beginning of the video, but I'm definitely going to say it here now. I completely disagree with their 8 out of 10 for this tablet. And I'm on the wrong video. But yeah, I completely disagree for an 8 out of 10 on this tablet, especially if you gave the laptop an 8 out of 10. I'm not as concerned with, once you're inside, it's easy to do stuff. It's like, in order to get inside, you have to remove the most expensive part of the device. The processor might be a little more expensive. I don't know, but removing that OLED panel, trying to carefully make sure that the adhesive is broken down when you've heated it up. So no, completely disagree with iFixIT with this one. Good job on rating the Surface laptop, but the Surface Pro 11, you can't give it an 8 if you give the laptop an 8 as well. Screws and magnets. No reason for adhesive. Consider subscribing.